All right, everybody with us? Okay. Ryan, would you do roll call?
I would love to. Mayor Godis.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kaut.
Here.
Councilor Willman.
Here.
Councilor Wusso.
Here.
Councilor Davis.
Here.
Councilor Stepp.
Here.
And Councilor Hershey.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
All right, I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Agenda changes and conflicts. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight or conflicts of interest anybody has? Nope. Okay. Next item, citizens appearing before council for items not appearing on the agenda. If it's not on the agenda, now is your time to speak. I see a hand up. Heather McGregor, Steve Smith, you are up.
All right. Hi. We're both going to speak tonight. I'm Heather McGregor, resident property owner at 63 Airport Road. I'm speaking tonight on the traffic growth projections in the South Bridge Environmental Assessment and the findings document, and their connection to the projected noise impacts on Airport Road. My comments focus on traffic projections for the 4-mile area. Close study shows they're based on outdated and wildly overblown development claims. These projections are not defensible in the face of real-world constraints, such as water supply, community opposition, and the growing risks we face from wildfire. Therefore, the projected worst-hour noise impacts of 4-mile traffic using the proposed South Bridge route are not likely to occur. And as a result, and here's my key point, I question the rationale for building a 10-foot-high, 900-foot-long masonry noise wall in front of the Cardiff Glen neighborhood on Airport Road. Now, I'll provide a few details. The South Bridge EA of 2013 based its high-growth scenario for 4-mile traffic on a massive expansion plan proposed by Sunlight Mountain Resort in 2008. The expansion was opposed and then formally denied by Garfield County. In the 12 years since, Sunlight owners have not revived the concept. Yet the EA accepts that failed proposal and uses it to forecast a 3-fold increase in day skiers, plus 820 housing units at Sunlight. The EA also factors in high-intensity build-out of the rest of 4-mile to about 900 units. The 2020 findings document says that the high-growth scenario was used for traffic evaluations. That high-growth scenario takes today's 4-mile traffic of about 3,000 vehicle trips per day and explodes it to 19,500 trips per day. Even the low-growth scenario projects 8,500 trips per day. Growth on that scale isn't sustainable, and I doubt the community would support it. Moreover, it would exponentially worsen the already frightening picture for wildfire evacuation. These traffic projections are deeply flawed, and they are now leading city staff to advance plans for a 900-foot-long noise wall that will divide our neighborhood. Ideally, the city would recalculate 4-mile growth, traffic, and noise impacts. However, the documents are what you have to work with. Still, the numbers are not realistic, and your decisions can account for that. At the very least, we ask the city to postpone construction of the noise wall until traffic counts make it justifiable. Thank you.
And Steve, did you want to speak as well for 3 minutes, or is this a combined effort?
We're using the same computer, but I would like to speak on a separate topic, if I may.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. The frequently highlighted purpose of South Bridge proposal is public safety, creating a new route for emergency access and evacuation. Too often overlooked or downplayed are the resulting impacts on homes and neighborhoods along the route to and from the proposed bridge. We live in one of those homes at 63 Airport Road, where we have agonized over the severe disruptions expected from this project, including a 2,500% increase in traffic volumes, unless Heather's right, and related noise, pollution, and congestion. Every time we look, details of the project's impacts on our home of 35 years seem to get worse. Already, design plans include the towering intrusive noise wall that would threaten 60-foot tall cottonwood trees and seal off our neighborhood. We also expect increased truck traffic and the likelihood of Airport Road becoming a de facto bypass for West Garfield commuters. Only one feature consistently included in project review documents would benefit us in our neighborhood: the installation of curb and gutter street edge, supporting proper drainage and roadside protection. Now that single positive component has disappeared from current design drawings, replaced with 10 feet wide ditches, benignly labeled bioswales on both sides of Airport Road. Over the past 12 years, we have observed practical field testing of these comparative designs. The east side of Airport Road in front of Cardiff Glen has proper curb and gutter, protecting nicely landscaped common space, public walkway, and large healthy trees. The west side of the road has a curbless, open expanse of shoulder with random parking of cars and trailers on the verge and on the adjacent sidewalk, tire ruts in muddy bogs, standing water breeding mosquitoes, and persistent spread of weeds. Curb and gutter has been specifically and consistently portrayed as a feature of this project throughout the planning process, in the 2008 alternatives review, and in every iteration of the environmental assessment documents in 2013, 2017, and 2019. Similar to passages in those EA documents, the October 2020 finding of no significant impact explicitly states the updated preferred alternative would improve Airport Road by constructing the roadway in accordance with City of Glenwood Springs street standards, providing two 11-foot wide lanes, curb and gutter, 5-foot wide landscape area, 8-foot bike lane, and sidewalk facilities on each side. This project promises an immense intrusion on our life and property. Retaining this one small feature promised from the beginning is a reasonable mitigation and compensation for what we will have to endure. Please insist that curb and gutter be installed on both sides of Airport Road through the length of our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment? Okay, I'll bring it back to council for, does staff want to comment on anything? Okay, I'll bring it back to council for council comments. Councilor Hershey.
So Mr. Mayor, today is April the 15th, which used to be tax day, but it's also the 109th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. Just after midnight on April 15th, the Titanic on its maiden voyage, 4 days in, struck an iceberg, and 2 hours and 40 minutes later, it sank to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. I'm hoping that our meeting tonight is less traumatic and takes less time. But a matter that is a little more serious, and I may make a motion, Mr. Mayor, and I've discussed this briefly with you, is there is a concern in my neighborhood in Charlie's ward about the corner of 10th and Cooper, where there was sort of a ugly temporary barrier preventing one-way or preventing two-way traffic and people going the wrong way. And a lot of this is anecdotal, but there has been certainly an increase, and I've seen it, of cars going the wrong way on 10th and then through 11th. And there's that marijuana store on the corner of 11th and Grand that creates a lot of traffic. The barrier was just a temporary solution, but I'm not clear, and I talked to Deborah about it, and I really appreciate that, why we removed the temporary barrier before we had a permanent solution. And I'm a little wary of a permanent solution before we can fully discuss it, Mr. Mayor. So you said we could put this on the agenda next time in May, but in the interim, I would move that we either install or put back some sort of temporary barrier, which was removed from a neighbor complaint, which is fair, until there can be a full neighborhood discussion and a full discussion on this council to prevent somebody from being hurt, going the wrong way, or a traffic accident or something like that. And that is a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a second?
That's second. I'll second that motion.
Further conversation? All right. Ryan, yes, Deborah, please.
I think we can certainly go back out and put up a temporary barrier. Terry can brainstorm some other more attractive temporary options for the next meeting. And then I think, if it's something council wants to make permanent, that we do a longer process to figure out a long-term solution.
And Mr. Mayor, that sounds very reasonable. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I would say, just on behalf of myself, I wouldn't have Terry brainstorm something slightly better or more attractive as a temporary barrier. I'd say just put back what was ever there. It was there for 8 years. And then let's have a conversation about what we want the future to look like. I don't think 4 more months until we get into budget season, if that's how staff would like to approach it. I think that's fair. I just don't want Terry to waste her time on something slightly better than what we have now, but that's just my opinion. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Hershey. I think that temporary, put it back out there. I also heard from one of the neighbors, and it's much more significant than I realized. And I go up and down Cooper quite a bit, going to my, not up and down, I go down Cooper going to my office. And I think it's a good idea to put the temporary, and I would like, if we can, by the next meeting, if that's not too much of staff, to kind of give us some options that we could look at, something more permanent.
Shelley?
Yeah, I just, on that topic, I'll agree with Charlie and Tony, and just, I would like to comment that, when we have a temporary item like that in place, I believe that barrier went in when the parking garage was built, and we changed that section of Cooper from 9th to 10th to 2-way. Then it had been 1-way. So that was put in, and then it's, it'd be nice to see that follow up with that permanent piece going in sooner as opposed to later. If we're going to do something temporary, it'd be nice to make it temporary and not have it become permanent. And I know that's a problem for everybody, but just a comment on moving forward on things like that. Can I do my other council comments now too? Or are we just on this topic?
No,
Can we vote on that, Jonathan, please?
Yeah, we have a misunderstanding, and it looks like we have some staff that has a clarifying question. And go ahead, Steve Boyd.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was my clarifying question. I was just hopeful that you guys can make a clear motion so that we could capture it and we know exactly what to do.
So my clear motion, Mr. Mayor, would be incorporate what Charlie and Shelley said, and you too, that we just reinstall that temporary barrier. And Charlie is correct. I mean, I don't know if staff can do this in just a few weeks, but come back maybe with a more permanent, more attractive solution on the next meeting, or we can further discuss it at the next meeting, but just to prevent any sort of problems now. Thank you.
Can I make an amendment, a request to the motion? Is since we are asking to put the temporary barrier back immediately, that kind of solves. It's basically returning it to the current condition that it was like 72 hours ago. So if that situation is resolved, can we give staff a little bit more time than the next meeting? Because if they're going to come back to us with something else, can we give them, say, the second meeting of May, first meeting of June? Is that okay with everybody?
Absolutely, that's fine with me.
Is that okay with the second, Shelley? Okay. I saw a thumbs up. Councilor Davis.
Well, just an additional comment. As part of that conversation, I think there's a bit of a larger conversation, and that is, why is that a one-way street in the first place? Maybe it happened, I don't know who, when, or how, but it seems like to me that from my perspective, it should be a two-way street, just like every other street in town. That's not a part of the motion. It's just like, if we're going to talk deeper into this, let's talk about that as well.
One-way streets and gates are political solutions, not traffic and circulation solutions. I heard that from a very wise person recently. All right. It sounds like we have a motion and a second. Is it all those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand?
Aye.
Aye. Does staff feel like that was a clear enough motion passes unanimously? Does staff feel like it's a clear enough motion? That's
Yes,
one
sir.
double check.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Tony's council comments. Shelley, did you have your hand up, or you said something about continuing council comments, but I don't think I recognized you originally for council comments. So go ahead.
Oh, okay, thanks. Let's see. Deborah sent out an email earlier today on addressing that the county is moving forward on that property above Walmart, east of Walmart, that that we'd like to get the homeless camps cleaned up on. The city has appropriated $15,000 to help with that cleanup. I would very much like to see that move forward. And it sounds like there's kind of a loose plan in place to where a private property owner will take ownership of that property through the county, and then the city would be asked to hold trail easements on that piece of property, and that the county is working to move that forward. It sounds like Paula raised her finger. Do you have a comment on that? Okay. Can I finish?
Yeah, please go ahead, Shelley.
Okay. So my only comment is that in conversations with the city manager earlier this week, it sounded like she needs maybe clearer direction on council on whether or not we want to pursue that, and to see city staff and the city management go ahead and meet with the county, work with the county on moving this process forward. So I was just hoping tonight, if council is willing and wanting to see that move forward, if we can give clear direction to Deborah that we would like to see that cooperation with the county and just keep moving that forward.
And Shelley, can I ask a clarifying question? I believe, at least my recollection is, last time we spoke on this as a council and addressed it, it was county property, county land, private developer, private individual. We should definitely have a seat at the table and be willing to meet with folks and be willing to move the conversation forward. But we weren't, I guess in my mind, the words were like in the driver's seat. And are you asking a change in that previous direction, or is there, okay, so if that was your understanding, I feel like that's the current condition. And if staff's not clear on that, then I guess I would support that direction if that's something you're agreeable to.
I think there was a need possibly to have some meeting between city staff and county staff. And my understanding was that Deborah didn't feel like she had clear enough direction to go and pursue that. So if we need to give clearer direction, that would be great. But no, I believe the county's in the driver's seat as far as getting things worked out. It will be hopefully ultimately a private property owner that will take ownership of the property, then working with AVLT and Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers to get the place activated, and that the concept would be that the city would hold easements possibly on those trails. Paula is indicating that she has something to add to that. So
can I recognize staff because she's the one looking for direction? Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, I think I just need to know whether there's a difference between me being helpful and me driving a project, right? So if you want me to be helpful, we are always helpful. If you want me to drive a project, tell me to drive a project.
I think it's more of a cooperative effort. So I don't know that you're the driver, that the city is the driver of it. And maybe Paula has an update on that. I believe she was going to speak with the county. You have something to add, Paula? Can the mayor please recognize?
Yes. Go ahead. That's hoping she just jump in.
Sorry. I did have a conversation with one of the commissioners today, just because all of this has been going back and forth. And I just got a little clarity from him that the county is willing to do just first of all, they're willing to do a joint meeting with the city council, county commissioners in the near future if we would like to sit down with them. But their priorities, the way I understand it, is they, once their public health department, Josh Williams, says that is a public health hazard out there, they will procure the funds to do the cleanup and get the property cleaned up, and then quickly transfer the property to the developers, the Triumph developers. At that point, and when I spoke with the commissioner, I said it would be great, like Shelley said, that we do this in coordination for any future work together. But he did say that we could reach out then to the developer, AVLT, RFOV, if we wanted to work with them on an easement for trail development, not putting money into it, but just helping in that transition. So that's the gist of it. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, so I'm trying to be very careful here. But like Shelley said, the next step would be the county feels they're going to be done when they clean the property and transfer the ownership to Triumph. And their future further engagement would be a cooperative discussion with us, and then us determining if we want to work with AVLT and those guys. So that's kind of a big picture, and I just wanted to get that on the table since I'd had that discussion today. The only other thing, trying to think, make sure I got it all. Oh, they're also working with the homeless population in that area on those hillsides, and working with Mine Springs on what they can do there to resolve that situation. So those are just to give a full picture to what Shelley's asking, and the opportunity that I'm understanding, at least from one county commissioner, that there is a potential for us at least to sit down at the table and say, what can we do together moving forward if we want to do that? Yeah.
So, and that's what I just see this as a very positive development on that property. There's a lot of potential there. So, Deborah, do you feel like you have direction, or do you want us to take a vote, or what?
I would like a motion with what you would like me to do in this conversation.
Okay, I would move that the county directs staff to, or that the council, directs staff to work cooperatively on the county to move this project forward and investigate if the city can hold trail easements in the future, but to work cooperatively, meet with county staff or other parties as necessary to bring this to fruition. Is that clear enough?
To be fair, county staff other than Josh Williams hasn't been working on it. It's been entirely driven by a county commissioner. And that is why it's hard for me as a staff person to work in that space.
Okay.
But yes, if there are meetings that staff holds on this in the county, I am more than happy to be at those meetings.
Great. And if we need to have a meeting with some of the council and the BOCC, then certainly go ahead and get that set up for us. If that can be part of my motion.
I'll second that. Yeah, I'd second that.
Okay.
Been motioned by Shelley, seconded by myself. If we're all clear, Deborah, thumbs up. Ish. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Shelley, were you finished with your council comments?
No, I had one other thing. I just like to say on the sound wall on Airport Road, if it would be possible if we could, council could have a work session or something on that issue, or possibly just have it come up on the regular agenda item so that we can understand what that is. And if this concept of having traffic thresholds before we build, if it's truly a 10-foot, 900-foot long sound wall, that's a very imposing obstacle for wildlife, for you know, I'm not real big on fences, I guess, is what I'm saying. And to have that running right along this new roadway that we're building just seems very imposing in the south part of town there. So I'd like to know, you know, just the background behind it and the need for it. And if we can set up thresholds, as was suggested this evening by residents there, that might be something that I'd be interested in learning about.
I know Terry has a South Bridge item tonight on the agenda.
Tonight.
Why don't we talk with her then about what that would look like?
Okay, because I didn't see the wall in there when I read through that. Okay, and I think that's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Paula, and then I saw Ingrid's hand up a while ago. Nope, no more. So Paula, go ahead.
Just a real quick note, again, kind of from the Glenwood Canyon Restoration Alliance, that those trail just to the whole community and inviting the council, that those trail work opportunities are coming up on Grizzly Creek and No Name in May and June. I think I got that reversed. No Name is May and June is the Grizzly Creek. But if you want to get your hands dirty and work on a little restoration, the registration is available right now through Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers. There are many things to do to mitigate the impacts of that fire last summer, but this is one that you can all just jump in and help out with.
All right. Any other council comments? I will just say if Steve Smith and Heather McGregor do not want their 900-foot sound wall, I'll take like 450 feet of it for Park West in front of another fence. Just saying, if we can reappropriate that. No, but in all seriousness, I wanted to say quickly that Johnson & Johnson is still a safe, effective vaccine. There's a pause on it, and 7 people getting sick out of 7 million isn't significant statistically at all, and 1 death out of 7 million is not. I really hope this doesn't contribute to vaccine hesitancy. If you really think that is, you need to go out and start playing the lottery more often. We need to get our kids vaccinated. When that opportunity comes and vaccines are rolled out and being able for children to get it, that's really when we're going to see the economy, I think, get over that final hump. I know as a parent of children who I'm still travel hesitant because my kids cannot go unfettered because they are not vaccinated. So whether that's foreign countries or just going to areas where there's high incidence rates, I think we need, as a city, this isn't a motion, this isn't direction, but I think as a city, we've been incredibly good. Thank you, Deborah and staff, for helping Valley View to get these vaccines out in the vaccine clinics. I would hope that we can do whatever we need to do when those max clinics come to the schools, hopefully before the fall. I had spoken 4 months ago, I think, about I had asked for permission to run for a board member for Colorado Association of Ski Towns. It's CAST. If you want to know more about what they are, I can either tell you or you can contact me directly, but it's a group that we've been involved in for as long as I've been on council. And they had a resignation of a current board member from their job. And so a position opened up and it was offered. That board invited me to join the board now. And I just wanted to quickly verify that that would be okay with this council if I jump on that board as a director for the CAST. Okay, looks like I got a few thumbs up. All right, thank you. Just wanted to get that permission and bring that through. Any other council comments? Any staff comments in relation to council comments? All right. Next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. I believe Jen had a question or a suggestion.
I just wanted to note that we had a Scrivener's error in the ordinance number 2. We didn't catch all of the instances of the 14 days. Shelley caught it and we fixed it, so it's right in your packet. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you, Shelley. Nice eye. Does anybody have an issue with that? Okay.
No, and I would make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve the consent calendar. Consent agenda, not calendar.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Tony, seconded by Shelley. All those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, next agenda item is the swearing in of council. And I believe we are doing this alphabetically.
Alphabetically, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to try to help kind of run through this, technology being what it is. Ryan, either he or I or both got you all of you that were just elected. Congratulations. Oaths of office, I think you have actually signed those in his presence already. But this is kind of that formal bit where you get to repeat after him. We're just going to run through alphabetically. So that's going to start with Jonathan, then Shelley, then Ingrid, and get you guys sworn in.
All right. I want to say that swearing elected officials into office is a very felicitous event. And I want to say I appreciate being a part of it. So thank you. All right, Jonathan. Without further ado, repeat after me. I, Jonathan Godis.
I, Jonathan Godis.
All right. Upon my oath, do solemnly swear
Upon my oath, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
of America, the state of Colorado,
of America, the state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and the charter and ordinance of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and will faithfully perform the duties and offices of city councilor,
and will faithfully perform the duties and office of city councilor
representing the Ward 5 upon which I am about to enter.
representing the Ward 5 upon which I'm about to enter.
All right. By virtue of the powers vested in me by the Glenwood Springs Municipal Charter, I hereby certify that the foregoing oath of office was subscribed and sworn to me before the 15th day of April 2021 by Jonathan Godis, and is city councilor representing Ward 5. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very honored. Not going to do any speeches, but thank you, Ryan. Thank you, staff. Thank you, council. It is really, truly an honor.
All right, Shelley.
Yes.
Okay. I, Shelley Culp,
I, Shelley Kaup,
upon my oath,
upon my oath,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the offices of city councilor,
of the office of city councilor,
representing the at-large ward
representing the at-large ward,
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
All right, by virtue of the powers vested in me by the Glenwood Springs Municipal Charter, I hereby certify that the following oath of office was subscribed and sworn to me before me this 15th day of April 2021 by Shelley Kaup, and is city councilor representing at-large ward.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. I must say I was very honored and humbled by the vote. So I look forward to serving another 4 years. So thanks.
All right, Ingrid. Councilor Wusso. Repeat after me. I, Ingrid Wusso,
I, Ingrid Wusso,
upon my oath,
upon my oath,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Glenwood Springs,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of city councillor
and the duties of the office of city councillor,
representing the Ward 2,
representing the Ward 2,
upon which I am about to enter.
which I am about to enter.
All right. By virtue of the powers vested in me by the Glenwood Springs Municipal Charter, I hereby certify that the foregoing oath of office was subscribed and sworn to me this 15th day of April, 2021 by Ingrid Wusso and is city councillor representing Ward 2.
Thank you all so much. I feel like I'm in very good company and I am honored to serve the constituents of Glenwood and be a part of the energy of this board. So thank you.
Thanks, Ingrid. Okay. Go ahead, Carl. Next item.
All right, so the next item is the election of mayor, and I would note, for me personally, I believe this is the 12th mayoral election that I have participated in some fashion over the years. So it's kind of cool. Earlier today, I sent out an email that kind of ran through what a script for the evening, just so that everybody kind of, it's essentially what we did the last time around for mayor. But for the public's benefit, kind of the way this is going to go is that it'll be open for nominations. Candidates may either self-nominate with a second, or if nominated by another, they need to accept that nomination. We're then going to, as you know, when we're all in person, we normally vote by writing who you're voting for on a piece of paper, handing it across the dais. The clerk counts them, those go into the permanent record. Tonight, we are going to simply do a hand-raising vote on the screen so that Ryan can count. We'll do that in the order of nominations. If we have more than, the charter requires that a majority of council elect the mayor, so there needs to be 4 votes for mayor to seat a mayor. You can't win on 3 with 5 different candidates kind of thing. So if there are more than 3 candidates, we're going to have to do a couple of rounds of voting. But with that, I would turn it over to, or open the floor for nominations.
Looks like Steve Davis has his hand up.
Thank you. I would like to nominate Jonathan Godis to continue in the role of mayor of Glenwood Springs. I would like to comment that this has been a very trying year, and I think Jonathan has stood up to the task and has done an excellent job in that position.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that vote.
Mr. Godis, do you accept that nomination?
I humbly and thankfully accept that from Councilor Davis and Councilor Wusso. Thanks.
Thank you.
Are there other nominations? Councilor Hershey. Sorry, Carl, I'm just going to let you do this.
I was going to say, that's fine. I'm just trying to take for this round, you got to do or whoever is elected, I don't know who it's going to be, but gets to do pro tem.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm taking it. Go ahead, Councilor Hershey.
Mr. Hanlon, I would nominate Charlie Willman for mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Willman, do you accept that nomination?
I do.
Do we have any further nominations?
Does the nomination need a second?
It does. If it is a self-nomination, if not, the point being is it's like forwarding a motion, right? There are 2. Somebody forwards it, somebody seconds it. If you accept it, that's the equivalent of seconding. Ingrid was just adding her voice to the mix.
And Charlie seconded mine.
Right, exactly.
Gotcha.
All right, seeing no other nominations, we're going to take a vote in the order in which nominations occur. And what I'm asking until Ryan has, because we have to record for internal records of the city to maintain, who voted how. I'm going to ask that you just raise your hand when I call for your physical hand, when I call for the nominated party being voted on, and give a second for Ryan to be able to jot down who voted what way. So with that, if you please raise your hand if you're voting for Jonathan Godis for mayor. All right, thank you, Ryan.
Mr. Hanlon, given the vote, and having seen the vote, I withdraw my nomination and add my vote to Mayor Godis.
Thank you, Mr. Woolman. With that, we have a mayor to serve for the next 2-year term. Congratulations, Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the show of support. It does. I didn't know the time really commitment that Mayor Gamba put in, and I really have a respect for that, and I really respect Councilor Kopp for helping me as Mayor Pro Tem, and you guys we all put in a ton of work, and to know that you like me, you really like me, and that you feel that I'm worthy to support the work that you guys do is really important to me. So thank you very much.
I didn't expect you.
Well, all right.
That too. We didn't say we like you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think you misunderstood this.
Yeah.
I was trying to be sincere. Thanks, guys. Thank you for yeah. All right. I would love to entertain motions. I think I could take it over now for Mayor Pro Tem. Paula, do you have a nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Shelley Kaup for Mayor Pro Tem.
And I'd second that.
Thank you. I accept that. I would be honored to serve as Mayor Pro Tem again.
Ingrid.
I would like to nominate Councilor Charlie Willman for Mayor Pro Tem.
I would second that.
Okay. Oh gosh, sorry. I was thinking Carla was doing this again. Sorry, I get confused.
I can. If you would like me to, I can.
Yeah. No. So if in the order that it was nominated, we'll take
You may want to check if there's any other nominations.
Thank you.
I nominate Dr. Susan.
I'm sorry, Councilor Hershey. That's out of order, Councilor. Dr. Seuss has been canceled.
Withdrawn.
Okay. All right. Is it so? If there's no other nominations, we'll take the vote on Councilor Kopp's nomination. All those in favor of Shelley for Mayor Pro Tem, please raise your hand and keep it raised so Ryan can record it. Yeah, I think you can vote, Shelley. Ryan, are you good? Okay. All those in favor of Councilor Willman, please raise your hand. All right, from a vote of 4-3, congratulations, Councilor Willman. You are our new Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Councilor Kopp. You've been incredible and really, I've been really enjoyed serving with you in this position, and I am most ecstatic that I get to continue to serve with you for the 4 years as City Councilor. So, all right, on to the next agenda item. Let me bring it up here. South Midland updates. Oh, I'm sorry. Paula, go ahead.
I'd like to just have a brief discussion on commissions and boards. Just some of the things in my life have changed, and I'm wondering if we can relook at that for.
Mr. Mayor, I object at this time. That's not on the agenda, and I wasn't prepared to talk about that. I'd like that to be.
I wasn't done, Tony. I was going to ask that we bring that up.
He's out of order, Mr. Mayor. That's not on the agenda.
I was
Okay.
going to ask if we could bring that up in the next council session as a discussion point. So I wasn't asking for it now. I just wanted to get it moved up.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry.
That's a very fair question. It has to do with the election of the mayor, but it's not, Tony is also correct, it's not on the agenda. Why did I ask for this job again? I don't know. But we will, I was going to address that actually on comments and going after at the end. But yeah, I think what I would like to do is address that. I'll send an email out to all of council asking for preferences, and we will have a longer conversation probably at the next meeting. So thank you, Paula, for bringing that up. Okay. Back to the agenda item, South Midland update. Harry, you better jump in.
Jonathan, could you please promote Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Vonatovich, please?
Absolutely. Did I get Ryan? There he is.
Yeah.
Okay, take it away.
Kathleen, do you want to jump in first?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Can you see my screen? I have a little presentation tonight.
We can. Yeah, there you go. I was just about to ask that.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you, everybody. I continue to be amazed by this project and this project team. I was out there the other day and just was a perfect day where everything was kind of seamlessly happening. And, you know, we have a short window of time for construction to take place between 9 and 3. And so there were 3 different major scopes of work happening at the same time, and traffic was flowing and different traffic control. And so I just want you to know these guys are out here really working hard for the city, and it's great to see. This is a picture of the rock netting and what we call the rock scaling work. That work is complete. The crane is off the area. So signs that things are moving, and we branded this as Keep South Midland Moving Project. Rock Solid is one of our subcontractors. They're kind of well known in the construction industry for rock work. Their work is complete. So the rock scaling and netting work, that's done. The crane is no longer on Midland. The shotcrete wall work is moving along. There's one section of the wall that's complete. But if you're driving by and you see the creekers out there with their spraying the concrete, it's kind of cool, and that's continuing to move along. The storm drain installation is in progress, and this is a really notable scope of work for the utility part of this project, and it continues to move along. There were a couple of emergency vehicles that have gone through the site with their sirens on, and they've had safe passage through Midland. So just a few signs that things are moving. Construction activities, what are we doing out there? We still have the rockfall mitigation work in areas going on. The soil nail walls are still being installed. There's some embankment work and earth compacting at the Cardiff intersection. Remember, there's still Black Hills energy work going on there. I did ping their public information manager the other day to try to get an update, but was unsuccessful. So in terms of their timeline and what they're doing, but stay tuned for that. Ongoing utility work with that storm drain I talked about, as well as the 18-inch water main. This new water line is a huge infrastructure upgrade to the area and really supports the health of the water infrastructure system in Glenwood Springs. So this is another big scope of work that's included in the project that is going to be starting here very shortly. If you see the road narrowing right now, that's because we're working on that water line main. All right, the road closures are still the same. They're 9 to 3, Wednesdays 9 to 2, with periodic work on the weekends. And just a reminder to kind of slow down when you can. We've got a lot of traffic control folks that are in the area. And there's a lot going on, a lot of activity, which is good for progress, but also, just keep in mind that there's a lot of people that are working on the job site. I tried to get on site the other day to get some really good photos, but there were so many people working. I didn't want to show up and say, I'm the PR person, I gotta take pictures. I just wanted to respect kind of what everyone was doing. There's a lot of people that are coordinating very closely to get this scope of work done in a short window of time during the day. So we still have our notify me, our phone and our text, and our updates going out. Our next CCC meeting, our Community Communications Coalition meeting, will be, I believe, May 12th or May 13th. And we're going to plan that meeting to be outside around, do a little bit of a job site tour with our Community Communications Coalition. So we're just a little Zoom fatigued, and we're going to show everybody around the job site. And that's the latest update. So I would say right now, all thumbs are up. Project team is working very smoothly. And I had a call with the contractor today to double check, and he gave me a thumbs up, and SGM. And so I have a lot of good news to report.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Tony?
Well, if Shelley wasn't going to ask, I don't know, Kathleen, if you heard that during citizens' comments, Steve Smith and his partner were concerned about the wall issue. And I don't know, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to be out of order, but would that be appropriate now to maybe ask about, Jonathan?
Probably not the PR person. No offense, Kathleen. I'm sure you could
No,
answer.
no, no.
Well, it's a different project. It's a different project too.
I know, and I wasn't asking her. I just when would be the appropriate time to talk about that?
I think Deborah would mention. Go ahead, Deborah.
I think Terry was going to briefly touch upon it when she does her item on Southbridge later on in the agenda.
Perfect. Is there any other questions? Kathleen, obviously I drive by there every day. It literally is a project taking place outside of my window that I look out of. Not this one, this is my back window, but usually the one I look out of. You guys are doing great. Not you guys, but the Gould is doing fantastic.
The whole team, it's the whole team working very closely together. And also part of that team are the residents, the motorists, and the South Midland neighborhood. So thank you so much for everybody who is just kind of, putting up with the traffic holds.
And I'm not just saying this. I'm usually the first person anybody calls for anything when they want to complain. And I literally have gotten no calls at all on this project. So I think the traffic control is really fantastic and it's looking great out there. So thank you. And please pass on our appreciation for everything you guys are doing.
Okay, well, have a good night.
All right, thanks so much. All right, next item on the agenda is the solar campaign in Garfield County. Who may I be promoting on this?
Should be Mesa, I'm looking.
Maisa.
Yes.
Yes.
Laisa Langer?
Oh, Maisa with an N. Maisa Metcalf.
Yes, I do not see her in attendance.
I do not either. Nope, she's just popped in.
She just popped in.
Man, that's some good timing. Someone told you that we take forever on these things. And usually they're right. There you go. Maisa, how are you doing? You're muted, bottom left hand, unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, so can I share my screen?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How do I do that?
We'll need to promote you. Give me one minute.
Oh, thank you.
I see you on our screens. It looks like you're promoted.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Hi, can I get started?
Yes, please.
Hey, so good evening, Mayor and members of the council. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maisa Metcalf. I'm the Director of Consumer Engagement at CLEAR, and we are the administrators of Garfield Clean Energy, which the city is a member of. Last fall, the Garfield Clean Energy Board decided to shift some funds from our former revolving loan fund to kickstart a program in Garfield County called Solarize, which has been happening throughout the country. And the GCE decided to provide rebates for those that don't have access to utility rebates, such as Excel customers, and that rebate is $1,500. 3 ways that folks can save energy by going through Solarize is that it's a bulk purchase. So the more folks who sign up for it, the bigger the rebate is at the end. And then we also help them get utility rebates, such as the Glenwood Springs Electric, Holy Cross, and then folks who are in Excel territory can get that $1,500 from Garfield Clean Energy. And we also help them sign up for the federal tax credit, which is 26% of the cost of the project right now. And that's going to go down to, I believe, 24% next year, and then to 22% in 2023. So since we launched the program March 1st, we've seen an amazing response from the community. We've had over 350 enrollees. 47 PV systems have been sold, including 18 battery storage systems. So we are seeing a lot of people interested in battery, since what happened in Texas was, very concerning. And over 338 kilowatts of solar sold so far. We've had several media hits, and I think you guys probably received a mailer. We send out to every single address in the county, residential and commercial, and that definitely generated a lot of interest from the community. Showing a breakdown by zip code, Glenwood is definitely ahead. We've sold 23 systems in Glenwood Springs alone, over 126 enrollees, and I cannot see, let me minimize, 100. So over half of the kilowatts sold so far are actually in Glenwood Springs zip code. Can I go to the next one? And the way that folks can sign up for Solarize is they can call the CLEAR office, or they can go to the GCE website, sign up for it. The whole process is very simple. We usually follow up within a day or two, provide some information on home energy assessments, on different energy efficiency upgrades, and then we pass their information along to the contractor, which is Active Energies. We did select Active Energies through an RFP, competitive RFP process, and we had an independent review committee kind of go over all the different submissions, and they just had the strongest proposal. They are charging about $2.80 per watt, and they're also providing an incentive at the end, and that's going to depend on how many kilowatts we sell. If we can get to a megawatt of solar, which is my goal, everybody's going to get a $500 check. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update on how the program is going. It's been really, really exciting and a great response from the community. As you can see, there are a lot of projects in Glenwood Springs. So I asked Deborah and Matt if I could come, let you guys know how the program is going, and maybe come back sometime in June once we have, final results, so you guys can be in the loop.
Thank you, Marissa. Shelley.
That's fantastic, Maisa. Thank you for the update. And I have a question. I don't know if this is for you, or I see Matt Langhorst is on, but are we doing battery systems in Glenwood Springs? And I guess wondering if there's like an extra rebate for that, or how does that work?
Yes, so we do. And I think, let me see how many in Glenwood. Well, I know that so far, let me see how many of those systems. I think 18. Yeah, so 18 out of the 47 have battery storage systems. I can look it up. I don't know how many of those are in Glenwood, but I can look it up. I know that some of those are in Glenwood, most definitely. We are not providing rebates for battery storage, but since we realize how the demand has been for battery storage, I think that's definitely something we can look at for next year. Because I do think we're going to keep doing Solarize based on the response that we're getting. And maybe next year we could provide a battery storage rebate through the city. But we are not doing that right now. And we haven't felt that people really need the rebate so far, because they can get 26% in federal tax credit when they do the battery storage in combination with the solar system.
Ah, okay. Okay, great. Thanks. And maybe this is a question for another time, Matt, if you're on there, but I'm just wondering if Glenwood Springs Electric is doing anything technology with the battery storage system so that we can use that energy to help our electric system, or if that's on the radar. Not yet.
Battery storage is obviously always on the radar. You know, it'd be a great thing if we could build a big unit, power up during the day when electricity is a little cheaper and more abundant, and then use it at night to kind of cut the peaks out so we can lower some of our costs. But nothing is off the table, I guess, is my point, Shelley. We're looking at kind of everything at this point.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Thanks, Lisa.
Slightly expensive in the size you're talking about for us. The little batteries for the houses are not all, they're actually pretty affordable nowadays.
Yeah, they are.
Any other comments, questions? Maisa, thank you very much. I have my appointment scheduled for 1:30 on May 13th to get an evaluation. I signed up, I think the first day it was available. So here's hoping.
Great. Good to hear. Thanks, John.
Yeah, we're putting in battery backup and a full panel system for our operation for Smiling Goat. So through this program this year. So
great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for signing up for Solarize. And let others know.
If you already have solar, can you add battery through this program?
You can, yes, but you basically don't get an incentive, right? Because you have to do your battery in combination with your solar. I know you already have solar at your house, so if you were to add batteries, you wouldn't necessarily get any incentives. But they do have a great financing option, and you might want to look into it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Maisa.
Thank
you for coming by tonight and hopefully giving a little more visibility to this. And all those people that are watching and are going to be watching on YouTube, sign up.
Yes. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Next agenda item is the South Bridge Design, Amendment number 8. Go ahead, Terry.
Good evening, Council. Before we get started, I'll just make a couple of comments about the noise wall that we talked briefly about earlier. The noise wall was a requirement, or at least the analysis of the noise wall was a requirement through our EA, or environmental assessment, that was done for the project. NEPA requires that we analyze the amount of noise, particularly from the existing condition to the proposed condition, and then for residents that could be benefited by a wall by reducing the amount of decibels by 5 decibels, be allowed to vote whether they would like to have a wall. And we did go through that process. There was a vote. There were 11 people that got to really participate in that vote. And of those, well, I should say 11 residents, both tenants and owners. And of all of the votes that we received, there was only one that said that they didn't want the wall. All of them chose the wall. So I will come back to the council on May, I believe it's the second meeting in May, to go over the wall itself and the aesthetics around the wall. And at that time, I'll bring a little bit more information back about that process. And any options to delay. Jacob is looking at whether or not that requirement through the EA could be delayed over time, or there should be a trigger point. So I'll have more information in the future, and I will focus on our amendment for now. This is design amendment number 8. We have been working on this project since 2007. So a number of amendments over a long period of time. We have looked at 33 different roadway alignments and all of their environmental impacts, as well as 2 State Highway 82 intersection configurations, both at grade and grade separated, and 2 airport tunnel conditions before settling on our current preferred alignment and intersection and tunnel configuration. We did finally receive clearance through the environmental assessment for our project on October 28th. This amendment covers these items. We have additional utility design and utility coordination, both an airport road and airport center road, and also along the State Highway 82 corridor. Initially, we had the thinking that we were going to extend our own water lines through here and look at some of our broadband and our sanitary facilities, but this corridor is just chock full of other communication companies, as well as Black Hills Energy needing to update their lines. So we're doing utility coordination both in Airport Road and Airport Center Road to try and get those people to where they need to be and make sure that our crossings are can be built. So other things that we're working on with this amendment are the design and reconstruction of Airport Center Road. When we looked closely at that, it looked like it would be advantageous to extend our water line and try to loop our system through there. Airport Center Road, like a number of our roads in town, is in really poor shape. We realized that we couldn't, cut a trench through the road without actually rebuilding the road. So we're reconstructing that road. We're adding, we'd like to add new pedestrian facilities to Airport Center Road. We are looking at new pedestrian facilities from 4 Mile to the project area, and there are in this amendment new pedestrian facilities that are behind the Forest Service and the mini storage facility. I'm going to bring up or share my screen here so you guys can see those potential pedestrian alignments. And then I will talk a little bit more about the Forest Service idea. So these are the 3 that are currently in the amendment right now. The 4 Mile pedestrian alignment would come through here and be, immediately to the north of our tank and make a connection into the project here. The reason for thinking about this extension was intersection safety here at the new currently and at the new roundabout. The city only really has jurisdiction and right of way up to about here on 4 Mile Road. The rest of it is county right of way, and there are no pedestrian facilities through here. There's also high pedestrian use. This alignment would take pedestrians that felt unsafe in this intersection, give them an option to come down to 4 Mile Road, on a paved path through this area. So hopefully taking our less experienced riders out of our new intersection. The other pedestrian alignment that we're considering in this amendment is immediately on this side of Airport Road. I did walk this area with Brian and Dan Roper, looking at different pedestrian connections, and this was a kind of a second, or wasn't as highly preferred to us as this idea was. This extension of our regional trail back behind the Forest Service and back behind the Gould mini storage there, but in conversations that I've had since, the Forest Service actually stores some sensitive materials here, and they really, aren't very fond of having a pedestrian easement behind their facility. So I don't believe that we can move forward with this alignment. As nice as it would be to have that regional trail extension, we will go ahead and take that out of the design contract and just focus on this Airport Road pedestrian facility. So those are some of the largest adds that we are adding to the project right now, or would like to add to the project. Our current contract value is $6,579,420.25. This amendment with the Forest Service work back here would add $579,197 to the overall contract. the value of that Forest Service work is $110,625. If we go ahead and take it out, this amendment would then come down to $468,572. So we should go ahead and amend that to go ahead and reduce that overall contract value. We are almost at the end of our federal earmark, but within our dollars that we budgeted for 2021. Our current federal earmark balance is split between design and right-of-way. We have 1.22 million in balance currently, and of that, 446,000 is obligated towards right-of-way. The earmark pays for 80% of the project bills, and the city pays for 20%. So with the proposed amendment and the remaining contract balance, the city's design obligation would be $2,670,000. That includes, our current contract that hasn't been billed yet. The federal earmark will pay for 1.22 million of that. The city's 2021 budgeted funds will pay 780,000. Right-of-way is estimated to cost 1.5 million. The federal earmark will pay for 446,000 of it, with a city obligation of a little over $1 million. We have 2.3 million budgeted for 2021 for the project, which will cover the balance needed to fund it in 2021, and will leave additional dollars for airport analysis. One thing to note with this amendment is that I didn't include any dollars that, for additional analysis of the airport. What is in the current scope was, some of our scenario building that we already did. So option 1, option 2 for runway shortening. We also have in there, all of the analysis that's associated with a tunnel, including about 500 linear feet of runway reconstruction to accommodate the tunnel. But what I would expect to come back to the council with an amendment number 9 would be moving forward with the airspace analysis. The reason why we didn't include the airspace analysis in this current amendment was that I really wanted to hear from the Airport Commission this morning, and also from the council's discussion with the airport board this afternoon about the future planning that the airport board would like to do to expand the airport essentially into this area here. And what I got from our discussions was that this expansion is uncertain still. So with that, I think what I would like to do is bring the next amendment back to you guys with just the airspace analysis for option number 2, as we had discussed previously, and what we would assess in option number, or with the airspace analysis, it would be just whether the runway shortening on the south end and then lengthening on the north end would be viable in the event that we aren't able to have full funding for the tunnel or for the project. So my understanding of that airspace analysis is that when we authorize it, if and when we authorize it, they would begin in May, and it would be about 90 days until we had a result from that airspace analysis, and they would be building a LiDAR model with it. And the LiDAR model would allow us in the future, if the council wanted to move forward with the idea of an airport expansion, to model buildings within that model, so we wouldn't have to fly it again. So with that, that's the full explanation, I believe, of the amendment. Does the council have any questions?
Yeah, I do real quick. One, I believe, and I thought, this is a question, I thought that we had taken a motion and a vote to authorize that airspace study a month ago when the tunnel option was approved. I believe Charlie made the motion, and I don't know if it was unanimous, but I thought it was. I thought we had pretty clear direction to move forward with that. Is that Are you looking for more option or more clarity?
You know, and I may have just not remembered it correctly. I was kind of holding off on it. And if we have already authorized it, that's great. I would want to check the authorization though. I know, you know, at that time when we had discussed it last, I thought that, you know, I had a rough estimate. I didn't have a final estimate from Jacobs of a cost of about $60,000 to analyze, you know, the airspace. With further discussion with Jacobs, my understanding now is that really we need the at least what they have in their in the rough estimate is $45,000 for just to get the plane off the ground. It doesn't matter how many options we're analyzing it, and then $15,000 for planimetrics, you know, the layout in the model. So I would need you know, the full authorization, at least of that $60,000, and I would actually prefer to bring it back to you again, you know, in, you know, the next meeting. It could, you know, Steve and I discussed even bringing it back as a consent agenda so that we have a formal proposal from Jacobs and you guys know exactly what you're getting.
Okay, I just wasn't quite clear on that. Thank you. That answered that question. I'll have another question probably, but I'd like to hear back from other folks. Paula, Charlie, and then Shelley.
Hey, Terry, thank you again for all the hard work you do. I get a couple questions. One was the reconstruction of runway 32, because if we were moving forward with the bridge design, and I'm kind of confused why this is a new item and why we're paying that additional money. I'm just trying to get a feeling of why this wasn't considered when we put the whole bridge piece together, that we would have to reconstruct part of that. And so why are we looking at an additional cost now? Why wasn't that included? So, you know, the reconstruction of the runway really is associated with the elevation of the tunnel. You know, and we tried to not advance the tunnel design, you know, to at least to a preliminary, you know, ability to assess cost, but without really detailed survey of what it would take, and the design of the tunnel, how high it is, how deep the beams are. And then, you know, from that elevation and the section that needs to go above it, then determining, you know, the actual survey elevations of the runway. So that's why you know, there's additional cost now with the runway. We really hadn't spent as much time with the design of the tunnel as we needed to really assess the runway rebuild. So on that note, are there other things that we really haven't, I don't want to say this, it's not set aside money, but we're like, okay, we don't know what this is going to cost, and we still have to take that into account along that line? I hope that this is the last one. I really think that, right. I really think that we're there. You know, we're at about a 70% design level, and we're, you know, in the middle of the structural review of the tunnel. I don't, outside of, you know, and we've spent a lot of time with utilities recently trying to analyze all the different utility relocates that we need to do. I feel like we're in good footing. I think that, you know, particularly with the airport, unless we decide to change direction, I feel like we're in good footing. We won't have additional surprises. Yeah, my concern is it sounds like we're almost out of earmark funding. Pretty soon this is going to land on the city's shoulders, and we should be ready for that. And then on that note, it kind of leads to my second question, which is the pedestrian pathway along 4 Mile, which is great. It's wonderful as a public safety thing, but again, that's a new thing added, and I imagine it's also because we have the Silver Sage property now that we can work within, but do we need to save that money for other contingencies? You know, as far as budget goes, you know, we will expend the federal earmark with, you know, this design, with this amendment. But, you know, between in our last budgeting process, we allocated $2.3 million towards this project to cover our balance, you know, with the federal earmark. So we're well within budget. And even if, you know, with the full amount of this, this proposal, we'll still have about $400,000 left in the budgeted funds for 2021.
So I believe we're in financially good footing.
All right, I'm still a little cautious on, okay, are we spending every dime kind of feeling, and especially if something comes up as a contingency again, or just as we just mentioned, I know the airport analysis is a little different because but still something else could happen, I guess is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's true, Paula. I can't guarantee anything, but I feel good.
I like it when Terry feels good. That makes me feel good. Charlie, then Shelley.
Yeah, real quick. And part of this follows up what Paula said. This blue pedestrian area going up onto 4 Mile, does that tie into the proposed new trail system in that area if we adopt and accept that?
Yeah, Dan Roper and Brian have both looked at how this hard trail connection would connect in with a soft trail. And there would be, I believe they're considering a soft trail connection down here somewhere. And we have talked, about, how the Southbridge path that's along the road would interact, and lighting and making sure that, that we have good pedestrian connections through there. So I think it would work well into their plan.
Right, I'm like Paul, I was kind of concerned about the cost, but I also used to live up 4 Mile, and that was 10 years ago, and even then riding your bike up there was a interesting endeavor at certain times of the day. The other question I have, Terry, I don't know if this is for you or for Deborah or Steve Boyd, but I should remember, and I meant to look up and I forgot, where's the budgeted amount of money for this year, the 2 point, crap, lost my number, whatever the numbers we have budgets here, is that coming out of A&I?
Yeah, I can take that, Charlie. That's coming out of A&I, in the A&I fund, that's correct.
Okay, is that part of the 20 million we've earmarked out of A&I?
No, the 20 million that we earmarked is for future bonding if we decide to take debt against the A&I fund and fund with that. So that $2.3 million is, both the city's contribution and, net of the earmark contribution that will be repaid by the federal government. Does that make sense?
So, Steve, thank you, but I guess almost might answer my question. So the 2.3 is out of this year's revenue for A&I?
No, this year's revenue, no, $2.3 million is what we'll spend total out of the A&I fund this year. Of that $2.3 million, we'll get reimbursed about $1.8 million from the earmark, 80%.
So we're going to spend $500,000 from the A&I.
Yeah, we'll spend about $600,000 from the A&I, but what you guys haven't seen yet and won't until May 6th, is that we're going to carry forward the unspent balance that was budgeted in 2020 and not spent.
Okay, I'll look at the budget. Thanks. I should have taken a look at it for the meeting. Thank you.
Kelly.
Okay, thanks, Terry. I had a question too on that pathway that's shown in the blue. Is that to be bicycle and pedestrian?
Yes.
Or is that mostly pedestrian?
We were talking about a 10-foot path through there, and it would be a paved connection. And then, these trails that would come into the Silver Sage development would be, dirt trails. But I think if Brian's on, he can probably comment a little bit more about it.
I was just wondering about the slope and the steepness in that area on the east side of the hill there. Yeah.
Yeah, we did look at that grade, and there are some utilities in it, in this platform. I think that it would make it, that much more expensive to try to really reduce the grade through here. We'd have to cut down utilities. So we were trying to be somewhat cautious about utility relocates to adjust this grade.
Okay, and my main concern was about cost and just paving. I know those concrete trails are very, very expensive. So my comment would just be, could we consider a soft path for that? Knowing that if it's a steep grade and it's primarily a pedestrian path, if a soft path would work and save us $1 million or something. I think the last time when we were building the river trail, that pathway was, I don't know how many million for a mile, just because it's out of concrete. So just something
Yeah,
to consider.
we sure can. Or, you know, we can evaluate multiple materials, concrete, asphalt, and just, you know, gravel trail.
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
Paul.
I think Ingrid was first, but it was just a quick question. If there were, and this is maybe a Brian question, if there's grant opportunities for trails that we could look at instead of taking it out of our airport budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've already met with Jacob with Roaring Fork Outdoor Volunteers, who was looking at conservation trust grants for trail projects. They were looking at something for the canyon, but because of the jurisdictional issues with other agency landowners out there, they were looking for something within Glenwood Springs, and this was the project that we brought to them. And so that roundabout answer to your question, yes, we are looking at grant funding as well as partnership with Glenwood Land Company for development of the trails.
Thanks, Brian.
Sorry, when there's a display up, the order sometimes doesn't refresh. So Ingrid.
I too was curious about alternative funding options and just some collaborative opportunities. So I'm happy to hear that there is already that in the works. And then the next thing that I would like to ask is that if any consideration can be made to ensure that they are handicap accessible and or encouraging that so that all demographics can use this. So more of a request than a question. So
Yeah, we have, you know, and grades are the most important thing, and surface as well. You know, when we consider handicap access, we usually try to move towards at least an asphalt or a concrete surface. We do have, for instance, our West Midland Trail is a little steeper, and we have some ADA rest areas along it, and perhaps that could be something we could consider here.
Yeah.
We can definitely look at it.
yeah, I think that would be a really fun addition to it, just to be more inclusive for all in our community. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Are we, let's see, this is a amendment. We don't have to take public comment on this, but let's do that. Let's see. Terry, can you stop sharing for a second? It's just kind of tough for me to see.
Yeah.
Thanks, sorry.
No, I'm glad to, thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back for further conversation and or motion. I guess I just would like to kick off by saying I don't support designing that trail extension that's a county road. That trail extension only serves 4 Mile Ranch. There's, you know, probably 40 or $50 million homes there. And you know, if I don't think we should start designing or get into the business designing trails and paths that aren't within city limits, unless we're trying to connect other parts of, like in West Glenwood, where we might have a weird carve out. I could see doing a bike path or a connection that serves other parts of the city, but I guess I don't support that. If it's a priority for the county to serve that specific county neighborhood, or if the county wants to have a very comprehensive trail system that comes down from, say, the Dry Park, wants to make that investment in the future, then yes, we could include it. I think at least the design work to help tie that in. But since we've never seen that desire, I'm not supportive of that portion of this. Charlie, go ahead.
Terry, maybe you said, but what's the cost of the design of that part of the trail?
You know, let me
roughly give me a rough idea.
Okay. Just a quick tally on the trail connection from 4 Mile. It's it looks like it's about $28,000 is what you know, that was going to cost for design. In comparison, that regional trail that we were talking about behind behind the Forest Service, and the mini storage was on the order of 110,000. And that Airport Center's Drive sidewalk is about 30,000 in terms of design.
So with that cost, if it's 28,000, I guess, and I appreciate what Jonathan is saying. I think this would be a good time to start reaching out to the county and saying, hey, we're looking at this. This is something that could easily work into a 4-mile bike and ped area. Are you guys willing to help contribute to this? And or would this be something that would enhance your desire to help give some more money towards the South Bridge? I think it may be a good opportunity to start a conversation. And for 28,000, I think it's worthwhile leaving the design in. I'm not necessarily agreeing that we spend the money to construct it yet, but putting the design in might give us a good option to open up conversation with the county.
Any other comments? Okay, I guess I will. Sorry, Shelley, was that a motion you're about to make or for future comment?
I do have one more comment, kind of a question for Terry. On the number 5, again, the Airport Center Road sidewalk, it looks like you're doing a revision to investigate the curb and gutter along there, and the sidewalk, curb and gutter along length of Airport Road, and also redesigning the drainage and the storm sewer. Is this a redesign of what was mentioned earlier by Steve Smith in that area where you were looking at catchment swale?
No,
Okay.
I won't change that direction unless, the council asks. I do think it has value from a water quality standpoint. And if you guys would be interested in looking at that as a group, maybe I could bring that back with our airport amendment. We could look at the, the curb and gutter versus, bioswale option if the council would like to see that.
Well, no, I'm just wondering, what is this in the amendment then for the curb and gutter?
So let me make sure that I'm looking at what you're looking at here.
It's on number 5A.
5A. Oh, you're in the scope. Okay, hold on one second.
Because I'm supportive of the swale that you're looking at now. It seems like it's a more environmentally friendly design for the water drainage in that area. So I was confused when I saw.
Yeah, and so that was just for the airport's center road sidewalk. We're still trying to make the right of way through there that we have is very narrow. And so we were trying to make the same concept fit through there with a bioswale, but we really can't. We've got to go ahead and towards a curb and gutter there.
Okay, so that's a different section of road. Thanks for clearing that up. So, I would make a motion that we accept the amendment 8 to the South Bridge design contract with Jacobs Engineering. Is that motion work for you?
Been moved by Shelley, seconded by Charlie. We have a couple more hands. Paula, go ahead. Comments on the motion.
Shelley, would you consider removing the 4-mile road? I just kind of feel like, once again, I understand what Charlie was saying earlier about, this could be a open hand to the county, but I feel like we've opened our hand a lot to the county, and I'd like the county to kind of step forward and participate with that, in particular with Brian's note of help from our FOV on this. I just want to save some dollars here. And then the other thing, can you amend your motion to include that Terry is taking out that other river path behind the Forest Service that she had mentioned earlier, that the Forest Service said that they were not happy with the white path going behind the Forest Service property. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. And yes.
I thought the conversation I heard on that was that it was the opposite, that there was a preference for the extension of the white path, but not the yellow one?
No, you know, we would like to have both because there actually are a fair number of people that walk out there.
Right.
But unfortunately, the Forest Service couldn't agree to the path behind their facility. So the white path would come out. The yellow path along Airport Center Drive would stay, and that would be our main pedestrian alignment.
Okay.
And it does reduce the dollars of the overall amendment by $110,000. So if we pull that out, the amendment then comes, the amendment itself comes to $468,572.
Okay.
I get-
Yes, I'm amenable to that, to pulling that out.
And then I had the second one of the 4-mile path that we look for other funding for that or go to the county.
And the 4-mile path, that's 28,000 just for the design of it.
Yeah.
I'm tempted to keep that in just along with Charlie's reasoning on that. You know, is that it is a pathway that could be helpful and is a direct connection between 4-mile and down to Airport Road.
Yeah.
So, and since we've got 80% of that is paid for by the earmark funding, is that correct?
Yes.
So I think I'll, if I wouldn't mind taking a vote to leave that in, Paula. So we'll take just the one amendment on the motion to take the white pathway out that's on the drawing.
And with that, I would amend my second.
And I guess I agree with Paula. I think we should absolutely go to the county and ask them if they would like to contribute funding for that, and then we will spend the time and energy to use our staff time to design it, work with the designers, do any work that we need because we have in-house engineering and in-house grant writers. But that path as designed now connects county residents to the city. It connects county residents mostly living in exclusively the 4-Mile Ranch neighborhood. It doesn't connect the majority of the city in a direct manner to 4-Mile. I gotta say, as somebody who rides my bike during the summer 2 to 3 times a week up that, it's really kind of a sharrow road. I mean, Terry knows by living up there that you're got your head on a swivel if you're driving on that road, and bikers know that you don't bike there during rush hour or on Saturdays during ski season or hunting season. So it seems like a pretty well-known path. And so if this fails, I would suggest a motion to take that out, but go to the county with an open hand and offer all of our services and ask for funding for that and our services and our grant writing services to help get that funded. So
are you asking me to amend my motion to take that?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Actually, I think I will reconsider because I also have concern on just, as I asked earlier about making that a soft path. And the soft path doesn't need the engineering that a hard path would need. And so actually, I think I will reverse my decision on that and go with that amendment. We'll see where Charlie lands, but yeah, let's take that design out and work with the county on that. I'm really happy to be getting that open space, but do we need to spend 28,000 of the airport or of the Southbridge money on designing a concrete path in there at this point? Perhaps not. So let's try the vote with it taken out.
Charlie?
Since we're talking about $5,600 to the city, I decline to agree to that amendment, and I will withdraw my second to allow someone else to second it.
I will do that second for your motion, Shelley.
Okay.
Any further comments, questions on the motion? All right, Ryan, let's call the question.
All right. Counselor Wusso,
Yes.
Counselor Stepp,
Yes.
Counselor Hershey,
Yes.
Counselor Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Willman,
No.
Mayor Godis,
Yes.
and Counselor Kaup.
Yes.
All right, passes 6-1.
And I want to iterate, I don't object to the general increase. I object to taking out that money. So that was my no vote.
Thanks, Charlie. Anything else?
No, that's great. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. Appreciate all your work on this. Item number 15, devolution of the state coronavirus dial. Ms. Hooten.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I am here to present information about the devolution or the retirement of the COVID-19 dial. It's being retired and will be turned over to local control. And we have put together a few options for how to proceed related to the devolution. So the first option is following Garfield County's lead. A resolution is being drafted. I think it's actually maybe out, but I haven't seen it yet for consideration by the BOCC on April 19th, which is likely to move the county to an educational model. It would still be pressing the importance of the 5 containment strategies, but education rather than enforcement. The county would maintain the current public health order that's been in place since 2020, and that they will follow all state guidelines and will be continuing to monitor and report on those data metrics. Option 2 would be to put in place a new mask order after May 2nd, when the statewide mask order is going away. The state will have a mask mandate for strategic areas through the school year, and some requirements related to specific like congregate facilities like jails. But the governor is strongly recommending that local governments keep social distancing and mask orders in place, especially for indoors. So that's an option 2, and you can kind of mix and match some of these as we move along. Option 3, to put in a public health order that follows the current dial level restrictions, or as some Front Range communities are doing, the level that is 1 level less restrictive, through being in place through May 27th, as some of our neighboring counties will be doing. And then option 4, removing the outdoor face mask requirement. Reports from our private security downtown are that people are becoming less willing to wear a mask outdoors. And with that, I'm open to any questions you might have.
Jen, what is other communities in the Roaring Fork Valley and maybe Avon, Vale, other places, people come from the Front Range and come out here, and is there any consistency to what Pitkin and Eagle County are doing?
My understanding is that they will, that Pitkin has a mask order that goes through May, and Aspen, and I think Snowmass has actually voted to extend their mask order through June 7th. I think Aspen is in the process of moving forward with that mask order being extended. And then my understanding is that our neighboring counties, Pitkin and Eagle, will be also kind of following the dial through the end of May, or kind of to that Memorial Day timeline.
Charlotte.
Sorry, every time you take a hand off, it moves the dial, so I can't unmute. Mostly informational. The Chamber of Commerce Board met on Wednesday morning, and I talked to them to get their input on this. Deborah, were you going to? I see you're unmuted. Did you want to put something in first?
No, I was just ready to talk because I figured I should, but you go first.
Okay. And I indicated to them that I wasn't sure exactly what the council would be doing. What they expressed to me is, and I told them that I thought that we might be removing the outdoor mask requirement, which they strongly supported. What they're asking for is that there's clear direction given by the county and or the city so that the restaurants know what they need to follow. That's the biggest issue, I think, from their point of view. And I want to put that piece of information out as you think about this topic. But see, They think outdoor dining is important. They're hoping that we're going to continue the outdoor dining we had like last summer in the larger areas and things like that. They do think dropping the outdoor mask mandate is helpful. And if we're going to stop enforcing the indoor restrictions and the social distancing as a mandate within the city, they're requesting to be done before the Memorial Day weekend. So that was the input I got from this chamber, just for information to council.
Questions for Jen?
And I would just follow up from Jen's presentation saying this is not easy. We tried to give you guys a range of, very protective to not protective and, options in the middle. So, we have been going to Eagle and Pitkin counties manager meetings. We've been hearing their advice of their public health experts and their push. They're trying to group together with resort communities and say, we want to be as protective as possible, stick with the COVID dial until right before summer kicks off so we can have a successful summer. There is also a lot to be said with just, saying we want to be more protective than not, but not that protective, and stick with just an indoor face mask order. We definitely think it is time to remove the outdoor face mask order.
Shelley, if you have questions, that's great. I am going to open this up to public comment and then come back for council comments. So do you have a question?
Yes, I do have a question. So do we know, will the county not have any indoor mask order after this is lifted?
So my understanding is that the mask order extends beyond the retirement of the dial through May 2nd. So it will have a little bit of an extension beyond the retirement of the dial. And there are some other pieces related to the mask order that will be specific for, as I mentioned, some high risk indoor settings. So my understanding is that it will be an extension, as there is right now for the counties that are in green, for those kind of high risk categories. But to answer your question, post May 2nd, no, I think that it would just be the state, whatever that kind of underlying, or what are they calling it, the base layer order related to masks.
Okay. Have we reached out to any of our health care community and found out where we are, what's their opinion on this? And where are we as far as reaching kind of herd immunity in the county? Because I was at a vaccine clinic and part of getting my vaccine, but also they're volunteering. And there was a little bit talk about that, at some point in the foreseeable future, we will reach that herd immunity within Garfield County between the people who have had it and the people that are getting vaccinated. And I think just wondering if that might play into our decision a little bit.
I would say, Shelley, we did invite county public health to come talk tonight, and we did invite state public health to come talk tonight, and neither entity is. Okay. So it's really hard for us to answer those questions.
Yeah, I just wondered if we had that information. So
the one thing I will say is that there is a model that was done, I think, by CU Public Health School that predicts that hospitalizations will rise if there is a full removal of the dial and a major behavioral change that could be kind of in line with kind of the previous kind of fall winter surge, and that it is mitigated if people keep their guard up through, that it pushes it a little bit longer into May, that number that, it pushes it out as it allows more people to get vaccines, essentially.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jan. Thanks. That's helpful.
I would say the information I have seen is that we're a ways away from herd immunity, because especially being a resort community, we can't just rely on the people who live in our town to be at some point herd immunity. Also, the people who have had COVID in the past aren't necessarily immune because of the variants that have sprung up. So those antibodies are only good for 6 months, even on the original COVID virus. But now with all these variants, really, if you're not immunized, that's really problematic. So I'm not public health. I don't work for public health. I make no claims for public health. That's just the information that I have read on herd immunity. Paula, further questions?
So Jen and Deborah, can we look at this kind of like when we came into COVID and restrictions, that whatever we decide tonight is a 1 month? Are you good if we say, okay, this is what we want for this month, and a month from now we have to discuss it again? I mean, obviously we're in a transition zone again, and we did this trying to figure it out moving forward last fall, and I mean last spring. God, has it been that long? And I think we're back at that point again. It's like, okay, well, this is what we know today. So if you're good with that, I just want to put that before the council, that this wouldn't be, okay, here's what we're doing for the summer.
100%. Yeah, we don't know what we don't know, and we have no idea how this is gonna evolve and change.
Okay.
All right. If there's no other questions, let's turn it over for public comment. Mr. Henney.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
We can. Fantastic.
Okay, excellent. First off, thank you for letting me speak for a moment. I would just like to say that one of the big things that's come out of the chamber discussion we had the other day and from the business community is we'd really like there to be some sort of consistency, so it's not a one-off, one business one way, one business the other. We think that's really important for not having altercations with customers that feel that one place has one rules and one place has another. Really a strong advocate of keeping indoor mask ordinances, but 100% support ending the mask ordinance in the downtown core in outside areas, but trying to have that balance of taking care of our guests and our community and being business friendly. I think it's time to just have some consistency. So hopefully that gives a little feedback and a little guidance, but appreciate your support and willing to listen to me on this. Thank you.
Christian, you have 1:50 left. It's not appropriate.
Well, I mean, I can keep talking, but I'm trying to like have you stay on schedule since, you know, you just got reelected, Mr. Mayor.
Right. That's, yeah, appreciate that.
I mean, you got to get one council meeting in out of 2 years on time.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Golly, again, why do I want this? All right. Sincerely, we appreciate those comments. Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to comment on this? No. Okay. We will bring it back for further discussion. Charlie. Ooh, okay, hold on. Charlie, Steve, and then Tony.
Jen, can you put up the listing of things again? I thought we had them, but we don't have them in the packet. I'm challenging you.
Can you see that?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess my general comment is that I think that we should follow the kind of what the resort communities are doing, which is to stay on the COVID dial. And I thought Paula's question or comment on that, we should review it on May 20th, which is our second meeting in May. And my view of May 20th would be as if we got the vaccination rate continues to go up in Garfield County. And I agree with Jonathan's comment that it isn't just here, it's the people coming into the community. But I would then be more inclined to follow the option one, just that we make it educational versus mandatory. But if things change and things get worse between now and May 20th, I probably would not support that. I would stay at the COVID level. But that's my thought.
Thanks, Charlie. Councilor Davis.
I guess I'll follow you guys where you want to take this all the way up to Memorial Day. But I would tell you that, I've spent some time in Texas over the last couple of months, and Texas was actually the first state to completely remove all government control from the mask mandate, and it did not change anybody's action. You still can't walk into a grocery store, and I don't see any restaurants that don't still have the sign on. We're kind of to the point where the public takes care of themselves and everybody's kind of following. We're all accustomed to having a mask in our pocket. I don't really see that it takes the government hand to enforce these things when I don't think we actually ever enforced it anyway. So it's kind of an interesting test on that in Texas that, like I say, it really didn't change anybody's action when the government quit dictating.
Thanks, Steve. I think, okay, Tony was next. Yeah, sorry. I can't.
Charlie, then Steve, then Tony.
Okay.
Are you sure you want to be mayor?
Well, when you share the screen, all the order that I originally called. So I think it's going to be Tony, Ingrid, and then Charlie now at this point. So go ahead, Tony.
Thank you. I appreciate what Steve is saying and the perspective from Texas, but I agree with him. But I think option one is probably the best idea. Paula makes an excellent point, though, that I think if you go back and read the minutes when this first occurred, it's been more than a year now, hasn't been for 13 or 14 months. I think I was a little reluctant, and maybe Jonathan, you were more like, yeah, let's do mass. And then I think I followed your lead, and you have done a good job as mayor, by the way, with this is a difficult time with regards to this issue, I think. But I think we certainly can be flexible as a tourist community if things change, as I'm sure other states, or as they would at the state level, if there's a problem, we could increase. But for now, I think, the outside mask thing, of course, that's a done deal. But I think I would support option number one, but I would follow the will of this council. I haven't been always right on this issue. I want to keep people safe. We're in a unique situation here as a tourist community, but I appreciate all the hard work that Jen has done and everyone over this past year and a half or year and 2 months, whatever it's been. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Ingrid.
So first and foremost, I think I'm most interested in getting a little more clarity on the public health order that's been in place since 2020. Somehow I'm feeling like it's been long enough that since I've seen it, that I want to confirm exactly what that entails. And then I will also add that I appreciate the public comment that ultimately consistency and continuity will create less conflict. So removing the outdoor face mask, I'm in complete agreement with that. And then, I'm inclined to follow Garfield County's lead. And my rationale behind that is because, once again, they have a health department and we do not. So they are taking direction from health professionals. And so I like that rationale behind it. But ultimately, I too, I was not involved in the previous discussions and decisions about masking and all of the decisions around COVID. So I'm playing catch up as far as what you guys have done in past and where I believe I am now. So I too will probably follow the lead of what everyone else feels is best.
Well, at some point, we're going to have somebody make a motion here. And then we'll all follow. Can I respond to that very quickly, Ingrid? I would say that Pickens County and Eagle County also have public health departments, and their counties are more focused on the tourism economy like ours are. I would also say the counties had a public health department throughout December and January, when they were not following the state lead and they were deciding to make decisions that were different from the state and not based on the metrics. We've also seen our metrics double in the last several weeks. And the headline in the Colorado today says, Colorado coronavirus dial system ends Friday. As hospitalizations spike, it'll be up to counties to respond. So I guess that's kind of my comments to your comments, as well as my own comments. So thank you, Ingrid. Charlie, Paula, then Shelley, I think.
And I was going to make a motion when I raised my hand, but I think other people have comments, so I'll withhold that. So the only thing I would add is when I made my comments earlier about staying with the COVID dial, I think we should remove the outdoor face mask.
Shelley.
I was just going to respond to the public comment and from the chambers. I guess I interpret consistency a little differently than necessarily following the county's lead. I think going to an educational mode only right now would go against what the state is recommending, which sounds like the governor's strongly recommending that we keep social distancing and mask orders in place at least through Memorial Day. So I would tend to go with that. I think what's shown here is option 2, which is for us to go ahead and get rid of the downtown, the outdoor mask order, but stick with the distancing and stick with the mask order for indoor businesses, just so that there is that consistency across the board with the state and with all the businesses within the city. So at least till Memorial Day, and then reevaluate when we get to that, I guess, second meeting in May.
Shelley, Shelley, let me clarify if I may have misstated it. When the chamber said they want to be consistent, they want to make sure that within the city of Glenwood Springs, they know that may be different from the county, it's consistent. So that the message that comes out is that the county is going to go to option 1, but the city is going to do follow the COVID dial. That's what they're okay with that. I didn't hear a lot of opposition, right, just so we make some final determination.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
okay, so I didn't want to miss.
I guess I was hearing something different from Councillor Wusso and Councillor Davis, of them maybe interpreting that differently, or thinking, that it might be time to just go to an education mode. But I feel like we're still in a place where it would be helpful and protective of our residents of Glenwood Springs and our businesses to have that consistency and stick with the indoor mask order until Memorial Day.
Thanks, Shelley. Paula.
In a sense, I'm going to make a resolution, but I'm going to move that we do indoor mask orders until the May 20th. Is it May 22nd? Is that our second meeting in May? So that we can review it and decide whether or not to continue at that point. If we go to May 30, or if we go to May 31st for Memorial Day, it means we're in the midst of 2 different dates and it leaves staff kind of hanging out there. So I'm going to move that we continue with the indoor mask order, remove the outdoor mask order, and stay with the social distancing that the governor's office has suggested. So in a sense, we're looking at option 2, but that's what the details of it are.
And just for clarity, that second meeting in May is May 20th.
Thank you. So till May 20th.
And
Paula, for clarification.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm sorry, Shelley. We both talked. I was going to ask you to clarify. When you talk about the indoor mask, you're also talking about the social distancing, which would keep us consistent with the dial?
Yes, so that we're consistent with the dial.
Okay.
So I believe we're looking
Shelley,
at option 2, but I'm having a hard time kind of shuffling these together. But it's the basis is social distancing continues, indoor masks continue, and we're moving the outdoor mask requirement until May 20th, when we will look at this all again and have a long discussion to make Tony happy.
Shelley, I spoke over you. Were you trying to second that?
Yes, I did second that.
Okay.
It's been moved by Paula, seconded by Shelley. Further discussion on the motion? All right. Seeing none. Thank you. I like that view better. Seeing none, Ryan, let's call the question.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Willman,
Yes.
Councillor Kaup,
Yes.
Mayor Godis,
Yes.
Councillor Hershey,
No.
Councillor Russo,
Yes.
Councillor Davis,
Yeah, I guess so.
and Councillor Stepp.
Yes.
All right. It passes 5, I guess so, and 1.
I just have a really quick, I just want to repeat what I think I heard, which is we will have when the dial goes away, we will have an indoor face covering order until May 20th, when at the next, you can make a decision then about how you want to move forward. So not really keeping us on the dial, but still promoting social distancing and having a face mask order.
That's what I heard.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Thank you.
All right, we are now at number 16, water rate study resolution. I think there's a couple options here. One is we can take a 10-minute break, come back and do the last two items. The other suggestion I would have is if we could power through this last item, we could maybe kick tourism board conversation to the next meeting, because I don't think there's any urgency on that, and just be done. So does anybody have any feedback to those suggestions?
Agreed.
Be done.
Be done.
Be done. Okay. Everybody good with powering through, going right to the water rate resolution? Okay. Item number 16, water rate resolution. Is this Steve Boyd? No?
No,
Is this Langhurst?
probably be me.
Okay.
Good evening, council. If we could promote, I think we already promoted Brian. Did he move over?
Yes.
Brian Mance, is he over here?
Oh, no. I'm Brian Smith.
There he is.
There you go.
Okay, just want to make sure Brian's on. I'm going to lead this conversation once again. Obviously, Brian is here for technical questions, and we will use him as appropriate. Brian, thank you for being on. I know it's probably 10 o'clock where you are. So obviously, the staff has been discussing this with council for many, many months now. I kind of wanted to go back and do a real quick 2-minute recap of how we kind of got here and when this all started. You know, I took over this job April 1st of 2019. Yes, it was Robin Millard's April Fool's joke on me. Within 3 weeks of that, me taking over, I was already in conversations with the water and wastewater departments on how are we going to fix rates. We powered through the budget for that year, but, you know, we were in front of council in December of 2019. Actually, we were out to bid for an RFP in December of 2019 for an RFP to get the rate study done. We went in front of council on March 5th of 2020. Yes, 8 days before the world shut down, with a rate study, gov rates being approved to do this study. So I kind of want, you know, even if it's nothing else for background for people in attendance or for the recording of this, we've been basically working on this for 2 years now and trying to get this rate study up and going. So not up and going, but get the rates figured out, get the budget figured out appropriately with capital projects included in it. So we have been working on this. Council has been working on this with us. So I appreciate your help and your patience on this whole entire thing. So that was my quick history recap on where we kind of started on this whole entire thing. Obviously in front of you tonight, and we can go through the entire presentation again if you would like to, but what we've placed in front of you guys tonight is a resolution that basically depicts option 2 within the presentation that you have seen, I believe, 4 times now, that would increase the rates, the water and sewer rates, 36.8%, with 5% trailers following that for the remaining 9 years of what we are proposing as a resolution. And then we would base rate increases from there on out on the CPI. We picked the Denver, Aurora, Lakewood area one. That one changes periodically to a different name. We have it also called out within the municipal code for how the improvement fees are upped every single year too. So it's kind of a reliable one, but one we're suggesting. And the reason we're suggesting that is so we don't get in this problem again. If we had raised rates the last 6 years, even just the 3 to 4% that the CPI would tell you, that probably we'd be having a much different conversation, because that'd be 6 times 4 is 24. That really cuts into a 36% increase. And we don't want to have this conversation again. We need some kind of backup where the rates are every year, unfortunately, just like everything else in the world, are going up at least to a slight amount, whether that's inflation or CPI or whatever it is. We're making this recommendation on CPI. So the question would be is, do you want the long version, the medium version, or the short version of the presentation?
I think I'll just speak for myself. I've heard the long version a lot over the last 6 months, so I'm okay with the short version. Does anybody else want the medium version? The long version is not an option. I'm sorry. Okay, I see a couple of shorts. Okay, let's go to the short version, Matt.
Okay, well, I am going to bring the presentation up. It is in your packet. It is out there for public viewing if anybody would like to see it and kind of go through it. It's been out there for quite a while now. We put it up, I think, whenever it came up on Monday, I guess. So I'm going to take over your screen. I am going to do the presentation, but we will go through it quickly, as long as I can find it. There we go. Luckily with Zoom, I cannot actually see what you're seeing, so I'm hoping you can see that and can read that.
You can.
So as we've been having this conversation for quite a while now, the city of Glenwood Springs has gone out and went for an RFP because we knew that the water and sewer rates needed to be reviewed. The capital improvements fund no longer was helping fund the water system. 5-6 years ago, it was investing $800,000 into the system every single year, and that was dwindled down to nothing. So thus, we did not have that additional fundage for capital improvement projects. We knew that was going to happen. We knew that prices were going up, labor's going up, chemicals were going up. Everything goes up every single year. So we sat back, Brad Zochman and I actually sat down and had conversations and figured out we need to look at the water rates because we were getting very tight on operations and maintenance in 2018 going into 2019. What we put together is a capital improvement projects list for the next 10 years. We put a list together of all the projects. This year, that list is very extensive because of the Grizzly Creek fires. It's additional pipelines for pump stations. It's water system improvements at the plant and the tunnel, intake improvements, which the NRCS was very nice to help fund. They funded 80% of our intake improvements. But that was only about $8 to $9 million of a $36 million 10-year plan. Going quickly. The rates have not increased since 2015. There was probably a little rate increase fatigue at about that time. I believe the city manager said kind of hold off, but I don't know if he said hold off for 6 years. Deborah was not aware of this conversation, so we were kind of a little bit behind on her on that one, but we are where we are at this point. And if we had followed the 2014 recommendations, we'd actually be at a higher rate right now than we're even recommending we'd be at. Because there were significant rate increases associated with that 2014 report. Right now is a great time to borrow money. That's why we're asking for a large rate increase. We do have the ability to borrow money anywhere between 1.8 and about 2.5% to 3%. It's the best time probably in a long time, if ever, to borrow money to do infrastructure projects. Utility infrastructure, obvious, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. Nobody knows where the water comes into the plant. Nobody knows how the water goes through the plant, and nobody knows how the water comes out of the plant. They don't care. A lot of people just like to have the water come out of their hose and their faucets. That is a very expensive proposition nowadays to do. And with the season as it is going right now, I won't bring that slide up, but the USGS mapping right now is actually showing that peak water happened about 2 weeks ago, when in 2018, it happened 2 weeks farther into the year. I mentioned 2018 because one of the worst water seasons we've had recently. And we came very close to having to put some severe water restrictions on at the end of the summer. We're not talking about that right now. We're going to see how the trends continue with these rainfalls. These kinds of things definitely help us. But that's part of the reason we're spending some of this money is to improve the water plant and to create a redundant water source system so that we have a little bit less concern about where we're going to get our water from, because we'll have 3 sources instead of just 2. Major water line breaks. You guys know what happened in 2020, June of. The city ran out of water because the piece of pipe between 8th Street Bridge and the plant broke. And part of the reason we want some of this money is to put in that secondary pump line so that we can then shut down the entire 24-inch line and inspect the entire thing. It's almost 45 years old at this point, and basically has never had a proper inspection done on it, but it is the main feed of water for the entire city. Thus, it cannot really be shut down without a third source. As you can see on this chart right here, revenues under existing rates. We have total costs here, which operating, net debt services, capital improvements, and working capital additions. The red line is what we basically take in right now. All the lines above that are the deficit that we have to get to where we need to be over the next 10 years for operations and capital improvement projects. What options 1 and 2, you've seen these before. Option 1 was 26% increase with 8887, and then 5% trailers after that for 5 years, or just bite the bullet and do 36.8% with 5% after that for the next 9 years, which, yes, is a very large increase. And I wouldn't be asking for this if we didn't need this to move forward with the water and sewer system in the city of Glenwood Springs. We've talked about this chart before. Biting out the bullet really actually saves you money after about 2 years. Doing the 8% increases actually brings you up higher quicker. And then you have a remaining water bills are at this height forever, where we only really needed this extra money up front for some of these capital improvement investments at low interest loans. Option 2 does raise the standard water bill. If you're using 10,000 gallons of water, you'd go from about $108 up to $145 this year. Yes, it will increase after that. It's a 5% increase thereafter every single year. This is what this year's bill would actually look like for 10,000 gallon use. You can see option 1 does cover the debt. It does not provide us right here the debt service coverage. Banks like to see this 125. They prefer to see 150% debt coverage service. And basically what that 36% increase does is it puts us up to about 149% debt coverage, where the 26% only puts us about 125. It's not quite as good debt service coverage. So it's not looked as favorable upon by the banks that we are going to borrow money from at very low interest. This one's a confusing slide. I'm actually going to skip it. It puts this rate increase, puts us kind of in the middle of Town of Silt. They have 2 different irrigation fees. That's why there's 2 Town of Silts. Right in the middle of Town of Carbondale. We're still below Minturn, Rifle, those kinds of places. But it doesn't put us out of the realm of what reality is for this valley, I guess is the point of this slide. And this is the kicker slide that there are other communities around us doing this. Carbondale did an increase in 2017 through 2024 with an accrued increase of interest on top of interest on top of interest is about a 47.7% increase. Newcastle only went up about 3%, but they're going to do that over probably 3 years. So that increase is around 9, going on 10 with accrued. Basalt 2018, once again, I mentioned this before, they did the exact same thing we did. They went 5 years without raising water rates. They took a 48% hit in 1 year to get the water rates back where they were. Robbie said it was very contentious, but people understood they needed water and water had to be treated, and it is what it is. The Rifle voters are in the most interesting position. They took a 0.75% tax increase, sales tax increase to pay for a new water plant. They've raised rates slowly, because that 0.75 really helped them out. They've had some 5s and some 7%, but this year, if you read the paper about a month and a half ago, JVA recognized that they have $164 million worth of improvements they need to make through 2040. I'm only asking for 36 million through 2031. We're not quite in the realm that Rifle is. So I feel fairly good that the system it's been maintained fairly well, but we need to catch up in a few areas of town. I guess this is a good slide. These improvements will help us. We're actually going to bump the capacity of the plant up with all these improvements we have. We're bumping up our capacity to move water to the plant with all these improvements we have, which helps with fire protection throughout the city. It helps with loss of downtime when a pipe does explode. We will be able to fix it, or it'll have already been fixed because we'll have that capital improvement already done. As you saw with the newspaper article that I believe Shannon had written, there was a long list of streets out there that we have water improvements on. It was a whole entire section of her article. And those are streets that need to be repaired, and those are streets that have failing infrastructure underneath of them. So they're kind of correlated together. And those are just the streets we know about at this point. We're actually doing investigations all over town, and we'll continue to make sure we know what's actually in the ground, because some records are a little bit thin. And I'm going to stop there and ask questions. Would you like me to walk through the resolution, or have you all read it?
Let's do questions and see if one of the questions is about the resolution. Paula.
Okay.
Matt, you mentioned Carbondale's accrued interest of 47%. What would be our accrued interest over the 10 years if we start with 36% and go 5% per year for the next 9?
You know, I've never calculated that, but I sure can.
Okay.
You give me a second, you keep asking questions. Maybe Mr. Boyd can do that for me.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. It'll take me a couple seconds, but I can get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's not going to be low, I'll tell you that.
Any other questions? Okay. I guess one of the questions, maybe just from an order standpoint, if we pass this, does it need a second reading?
It's a resolution. It's only one reading.
Okay.
An ordinance is 2.
Okay.
Unless Carl wants to correct me on that.
Nope, he does not want to correct you on it. Or nope, you know what you're talking about, and it really is 2. I'm joking. It's just
he was asleep. It's okay.
All right. Seeing no other immediate questions, I think we take it for granted that we've been talking about this for 6 or 7 months on council publicly, and that we've had it presented a lot. There's only 4 people in attendance. I don't think that that's reflective of the interest the community has, but I am going to open it up to apparently Christian Henney is the only person from the public who's not affiliated with the city. Would you like to comment, Christian? Seeing that Christian has no interest in weighing in on this, I will bring it back for further questions and or a motion. Councilor Willman, and then Councilor Stepp.
Yeah, just a comment. I think most members of council know that staff has been working on a proposal to help people that are economically challenged with paying rates. We've tentatively looked at some agreements with River Center out of Newcastle to manage that. And from what I've looked at, and from my conversation with Deborah, I think that's in place, and that'd be something that staff, I believe Deborah would bring back at the next meeting, a recommendation on that. She's nodding yes. So, well, I believe that this is a very large increase. I think it's necessary. Interest rates are at a record low. What I'm reading is that they're not going to stay there. I don't think we can hesitate to take advantage of that. We have significant needs. This is, unfortunately, the needs that Matt has outlined is going to use this money for aren't all the needs our water and sewer system, but they'll certainly take a big bite out of the needs that have been deferred and or that need to be done because of the Grizzly Creek fire and other reasons. So with that, I would move for the passage of resolution 2021-7.
Second.
It's been moved by Charlie and seconded by Steve. Never mind. Paula, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't support this. I can support the one-time rate hike, which I think we need. We need to catch up with where we were. And I could go with the 36.8% to get us caught up this year, but I can't do a 5% increase every year annually for the next 9 years and look at what that would do to our citizens' water bills and then continue with that. I would be open to a CPI increase annually, and include that council discussion has to happen every year to determine if we need to go beyond that CPI. But to just put it in place that we're going to do 5% for the next 9 years on top of a larger rate increase is out of most of our budgets in the city. And then when you throw on that on top of it, that we're going to do CPI continually after that, pretty soon people are going to be paying $250, $300, $400 for their water. And it's just not feasible. It's just not economically feasible for most people in town to do that. And I applaud people that have the money to be able to do that. We're not a business. There are other funding opportunities, and we do have to struggle to find them. And Matt, I'm not saying that I want to put that on your shoulders, or Jen having to search for those grants, but we have to look for other ways to fund some of this. And one of that could be looking at repeal and replace our street tax, but we have to look at other opportunities. The citizens have told us in the past that they can't afford this. It just has a sales tax. So I really firmly believe we need to look for what else we can do and at least bring it back to them at that taxing level to say, are you willing to pay for some of the things that we need with a repeal and replace or mill levy or other opportunities? So I just can't I can't say yes to this bigger package, which is just over the top of what most citizens in this town can afford.
Thank you, Paula. Brian Mance, I'd love to get your feedback to something.
Yes, and one of the, for the record, Brian Mance from GovRates, one of the things I wanted to point out to the council is that within the resolution, with all the 5% and then the CPIs after that, there is language that says unless there is action by the city council, that this rate plan would be implemented. The purpose of the resolution is, so when you're approaching lenders, they want to know that you, to have financing, they want to know that there's a plan in place to support the debt. And so by adopting a multi-year plan, you're giving them assurance that there is a plan in place. And I just wanted to bring that forward. And we were very careful in putting together the resolution to specify that, the council is always has the option of not moving forward with one of the adjustments or deciding to move forward with a lower one. But this is just setting up a plan in place so that the council so that the city does have some can approach lenders and be looked favorably on as far as creditworthiness.
Well, I feel like you're responding to me, Brian, so I really have to respond. I understand what you're saying on that part, but when I talk to my neighbor, they're not going to understand that. They're going to see this as 9 years of 5% increases on top of a bigger increase right now. And I just feel like we have to find a smaller way to present that to our community. And if it starts at a base of a CPI to say, look, we do have to do an annual increase, and then we'll discuss increasing it, that's one way to kind of mitigate that impact.
All right, thank you. Ingrid, then Tony, then Shelley.
So thank you guys so much for all staff for all the hard work you guys did bringing this up to us, so we have a really solid understanding of why we're needing this increase. I have a few points, and one of them was that when this was first presented, I asked staff to pull some data from 2005 to 2015. And in that 10 years, what did we see during that time? Because obviously we were kind of in the habit of seeing increases in our water bills. And actually the algorithm that was created now for this recommendation it mirrors what we saw from 2005 to 2015. The reality is that utilities and costs annually just increase. Our insurance increases, our Garfield County taxes increase. Everything is increasing based on costs. I think that it's unrealistic to say we want to stay right here when we know that in the last year, construction costs have increased so much. So those raw materials are costing our Public Works Department more in order to implement and to actually do these improvements. Two is that I commend Councillor Willman, because he did a significant amount of work to find opportunities to support any demographic that this really hits hard, so that there is money and resources available to support them if this hike is uncomfortable or just not maintainable. If that wasn't in place, I would have a harder time moving forward on this. And third, and I am in support of this, I'm not excited for this. This impacts me. This impacts every one of the council members. It also impacts the Public Works Director, because he lives in city limits, and it impacts almost everyone who has been here and spoken tonight. And we're all agreeing to do it because we have this depth of knowledge that says this is necessary for us to have a healthy infrastructure in our water system, so that we have a guarantee moving forward on this such absolutely necessary and vulnerable commodity, that we have the infrastructure there to support us. So in case I haven't given my perspective up to this point, I am in support of this. So that just thoughts there.
Thank you, Ingrid. Councilor Hershey.
Thank you. A lot of you are in private businesses. A lot of you have been in government a while. Mr. Willman is an attorney. I'm an attorney who works for the government. I can't think of a single example in a personal life or a business where, if we can't afford something, for example, if I had some medical costs and I couldn't pay my mortgage, I would go to my boss and say, can you double my salary so that I can now afford all these things? I would have to make cuts and find the money somewhere else, and like every other citizen in this community does. Not certainly the very wealthy people that maybe some of us are talking about, but the average citizen here. So I agree completely with Paula. And Paula, we don't have to have a lengthy discussion about it because it's very straightforward. There was a complete lack of planning, and I don't know who to blame, whether we go back, to a mayor a long, long time ago, to Teddy Roosevelt or Doc Holliday, but for some reason, there was no planning. And that was true with the streets. So what did this community do, or what did the government do? The government said, we've screwed up, give us more money. And what did the voters do? They said no, and they elected me, which is quite a surprise. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to say, we've completely screwed this up. We haven't planned, so just give us some more money. No company, no corporation, no private business could possibly run this way. It just doesn't work. And I just don't understand why we can't come to some compromise where there's not this extreme rate increase. Like Paula said, this is really going to affect people. No, it's not going to affect everybody. It's not going to affect a wealthy person with a big lawn who just, I don't care if my water bill's $200 or $500 or $1,000. Doesn't matter to me. It's going to affect the working people in this community, the average person who just can't maybe have that money, and they're going to have to make a choice. Just like a person like me would have to make a choice. Do I take a trip to Paris or do I get my kids braces? Well, I guess I can't take that trip. I have to do this. And, I understand and I can count and I imagine this is going to pass. But 4 years from now or 10 years from now or 20 years from now, I just hope it going forward. And again, this is not on the current city staff because it's not their fault. And I know when, I just forgot his name. Matthew, he's right there. When Matt took over, it's not his fault. It's not Deborah's fault. But, you can't run a government like this. So what are we going to do now in a couple of years when the streets are falling apart? Well, got to go back to that street tax because we didn't plan right and we need more money. And let's just keep asking the voters for more money. If they won't vote for a tax increase, well, we won't let them vote on it. We'll just do a utility. It's just anathema to me, and I just can't support this resolution, although I do support what Matt is doing, and I do support fixing our infrastructure and our streets and having reliable water system. I just don't think it's fair to put it all off on the average citizen if there are other options available, and if the government can make other cuts and make sacrifices somewhere else. It's a lot of money, I understand, but I just don't think it's fair, so I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hershey. Shelley, then Charlie.
Okay, so what I'm hearing with most people is that we have support for the initial jump up in prices from most people, and I believe I can support that too, because we need to get to a position to where we are covering our debt service, and we've got large projects that we need to undertake as a result of the Grizzly Creek fire, and also just to improve our water supply system right now. So I see that as this initial, it's not an easy thing to support, but I think it's a necessary evil. And I think, unfortunately, water, our resources, but also the infrastructure and everything needed to supply that water, the cost is just going up all the time. And it's been traditionally and historically undervalued. So as we go on with this drought and with everything else moving forward with climate change, we need to look at the value of water and how expensive it is to keep that supply strong and healthy, and also to be able to supply that to our residents. So it's just an important thing that we need to support, and it's not easy and it's expensive, but I do support this initial raise. Going forward, I think we need to have an annual increase. What that is, I think could be up for evaluation. We have talked about a possible repeal and replace of the street tax is coming up, I believe, in 2026 or 2025. And if we were to repeal that and replace that with an infrastructure tax, depending on what Community on the Move or other groups might support, we might be able to help some sales tax to supplement this water capital projects fund, as opposed to just putting it all on our ratepayers. So that might be an option going forward. So I'm open. There's one amendment I might want to see to the resolution, is that it does come back to council for a decision every year, and at least an evaluation of, do we need to do the annual rate upgrade or increase, and what should that be? And maybe that's too tedious going forward. I guess I'll put that out to the rest of council, but at this point I will support the initial larger increase, because I think that will help us keep rates lower, actually, long-term and into the future.
Thank you, Shelley. Charlie.
So I just want to kind of address a couple of comments that others have made, and recognize the concern about the ongoing increases, because I certainly recognize that as well. So first of all, what Councilman Hershey indicates is absolutely true. Is, we have to make cuts in places and do things, but unfortunately, this is an enterprise fund and it has to support itself. It isn't where we can cut somewhere, cut roads. And I'm not suggesting that, Tony, but we cut road costs and we put the money into water. We can't do that. It has to be self-supporting fund. And in that regard, if you look at what other utility companies have done, if you look at private utility companies, and in this regard, we treat this somewhat like a private utility company, is you have to break even. You at least break even, and they need to make a profit for their investors. We don't need to make a profit. We do need to break even. You're not going to go to the grocery store and they're going to sell you milk at 36 cents under the cost of milk to them, because they're in the business. They got to make sure that they, in that case, break even and make money. I know that's hard. I just, the thought of telling people they got to pay 36% more for their sewer and water on that average, because it's a combination of those, is very difficult to do. And it's not easy. And why I'm gainfully employed right now, I'm hoping the next couple of years I will not be gainfully employed and I'll be on a fixed income. So this is going to have an impact on me in the near future. And so, having said all that, let me suggest something and see if there's any thought on this. And Carl, maybe you can suggest how this would be worded. And that would be is that we would the first meeting second meeting in April of each year, or the first meeting in May, whatever meeting, somewhere in this frame, we would be mandated to put this on the agenda, and this would be in the resolution, and we have to vote to not increase the 5%. So it goes in unless we vote not to increase. That does give us a chance and forces us to look at it every year. So Carl, could something like that be put into the resolution?
I believe, can I jump in real quick? I believe that's what the resolution says. We can repeal at any time, but basically the resolution says that without affirmative action on our behalf, it would go up 5%. Am I not reading that correct, Carl?
You are, and I think what Charlie's suggesting is that it become that in addition to the language as it exists today, it would simply say, and I don't have it pulled up, I'm sorry, that without affirmative action taken at the first meeting in April annually, that would be the change.
And if we want to put a date to it on the resolution, because right now it just says affirmative action by city council, it doesn't really say when.
Right, and that's what I was saying, is an affirmative action by the, on the first meeting in April of each year, or affirmative action by the council when, during the budget cycle. I mean, we could pick a lot of things. I mean, frankly, attaching it to the budget makes a lot more sense in my mind. That, absent affirmative action in the annual budget adopted, in the annually adopted budget, the rate will go up.
So thank you, Carl. And so Steve, I think, seconded. So Steve, would you agree that we would agree that, because it's with the annual budget for the 2023 year, which wouldn't be next year because we wouldn't touch it, but we'd look at it and determine we'd have to make an affirmative action not to increase it by 5% with the budget starting 2023.
Yeah, I like tying that to the budget and not a particular date, and I would amend my second.
Okay, so moved and amended.
Matt, did you have a question or comment?
No, never mind.
I'll just give my comments real brief before we call the vote. I absolutely agree with, I think, Shelley and Paula, that we have to do this. We have to take our medicine. I think I don't think we need to do a 5% every year or signal this is what we're going to do forever, because we could change it next week. 3 of us could get recalled, and on the basis of this action alone, and we could have new people come in that repeal it and maybe give rate cuts. So that was my initial thought, but I think Brian Mance, compelled me to rethink that when he said that we're going to be taking this to lenders, and lenders, when you go for a mortgage, Councilor Wusso, and you look for a house, debt to income, and having a history of being able to make payments and having a good credit history and being able to have a good debt to income, these are all ways that you get better rates, and that lender has more confidence in your ability to pay for it. And so that did change my mind about that. And I think that is an important piece of that for me personally. And that's why I will vote to support this. I think to Councilor Hershey's comments, like, hindsight's 2020, and previous councils should have done this. Previous city managers who are no longer, we went through 3 city managers in the course of just, I think, over a year when you include the interim city manager. So I can tell you that I can't tell you why in 2016 it wasn't raised. I can't tell you why for the budget year 2017 it wasn't, other than we were getting in 2016 at that time new city management. And then in 17, I don't know why in 18 we were looking at a potential tax increase that would have paid for a lot of this. 2019 it didn't pass. We looked for 2020. COVID hit. No one wanted to do anything about this time last year. So I think there's reasons. I don't think this is a diabolical plan or complete, and I'm not saying you're alleging that, Councilor Hershey, at all, but I don't think it's also a benign neglect either. I think there is reasonable, thoughtful discussions that have happened, and for reasons, and then they added up, and now we are where we are. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is to plant it now. And I think that what you're suggesting by not taking action and not doing something right now is, and I know you're not suggesting this, but it will have the same effect of failing to plan. And not doing the 5% is failing to plan and to have us do this really bad thing that should have been done all along. It won't put our water rates at any different point than it would have been if we had raised it 3% every year like we should have done. It'd be less of a shock, but that's a marketing thing. Where we're going to be is where water's cost is going to be the water cost, regardless of what we had done it. I mean, in 5 years, where we're going to be is where we're going to be, no matter if we had started 5 years ago or we just do it now. It's just a lot more pain right now than spread out over a long distance. So I just can't abide by kicking this can down the road, not planning for the future, not having an affirmative action where council is going to have to say, no, we're not going to raise it 5%, which is the standard that we're going to need to do. I can't abide by having lenders not have a plan and give us worse rates, which will cost the ratepayers more if we don't get the most favorable lending terms. So that's why I'll be supporting this reluctantly, because no one wants to do that. So let's see. Matt, I think we're going to call the vote unless you have something that really needs to be okay. Ryan, please call the question.
All right, Counselor Stepp.
No.
Counselor Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Willman.
Yes.
Mayor Godis.
Yes.
Counselor Hershey.
No.
Counselor Kaup.
Yes.
Counselor Wusso.
Yes.
It passes 5-2.
All right.
Can I say one more thing before you move on?
Yes, absolutely.
So unfortunately or fortunately for all of you, thank you for passing that. I really appreciate it. I know the 5% increase was kind of the kicker conversation. We will be looking at this, and this will be coming back to you sooner than you know, because Councilor Kopp has asked us to look at meters, look at different tiers, look at different ways to bill water, maybe be a little more progressive on what we do. I know that Brian's probably tired of talking to me at this point, but we're going to hopefully keep Brian on for the remainder of this year, maybe even the next year, to help us reorganize what we do. So this isn't going to get lost. There are at least 3 of you that are going to be here for 4 more years, so you can kind of keep track of us and make sure we're doing what you expect us to do. So if it doesn't have to go up 5% every year, that is not our intent. We're not going to just drop back on the 5%. We're going to continue to look at this every single year so we can bring you good decisions, like probably should have been done over the last few years, being brought to council and making good decisions on things. So please don't think that this is an end all be all of this conversation. This is just the very beginning of this conversation for all of us. And hopefully it gives you a little bit of reassurance that we're working hard on this.
And we will continue to pursue every avenue of outside funding that we can. So.
And ones we probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Matt. And hopefully this initial jump puts the water and sewer departments in a better financial position.
It does. That's why I much appreciate it.
All right. Well, thanks. That was not fun. Is there any desire to continue the tourism board conversation to the next meeting?
I thought we decided that.
Yeah.
We need an official motion and
I would
vote.
move to continue that conversation to May the 6th.
I would second that.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, report from city.
Okay, officially, I think we've already talked about this. We are expecting large price increases in certain projects just because of the state of the economy. And I think that's all I need to say about that. And thank you all. I'm done.
See a couple hands up. Councilor Stepp and then Davis.
I still have to ask what Steve came up with on that number. I'm just curious.
I'm sorry, Paul. It'll take me a little bit of time to actually, kind of reconcile back to Carbondale's. But I think the answer to your question is that over 10 years, we would basically be doubling our rates.
I was looking for the accrued interest, but I'll get that from you later, Steve.
Okay.
Go ahead, Deborah.
I forgot, I am supposed to inform you that I have put in an executive in order to match what the county is doing and not have fireworks in the city of Glenwood Springs until November 1st. So hopefully we can have a lovely New Year's Eve party again with fireworks.
Deborah, this, as I told you on the phone, this came up at the fire board. Can we make sure that, I know you will, but that it's publicized so it's clear?
Absolutely. And we're going to work with the school district and make sure parents and kids get that information too.
Great. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you.
Anything else, Deborah? No? Okay. Carl?
I don't think I have anything. I would just remind everybody, I know we have a lot of pending large land use applications that are of great interest to the community. That is tough for you guys, I know, but the best way for the public's voice to be heard is to provide testimony either written or live at the Planning Commission and in front of you, because as you know, you can't take those comments separately outside of that hearing. And so I know it's going to be a tough couple of months because everybody wants to talk about it, but I appreciate you guys kind of dealing with that. It's a tough thing. So that's all I've got for tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Anything else for the good of the order? No? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
All right. There's a second. All right, second by Shelley. All those in favor say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-1. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much.